Cruise News. Today's top stories. 9 Norwegian cruise ship passengers learn the hard way that you need to make it back to the ship before cutoff time. Story 2. Cruise lines show their sense of humor with April Fool's Day gags. Our third story. Norwegian's gonna have to cancel a bunch of cruises in 2025. We're gonna let you know which ones. Story number 4. Cruise stocks are hot and there's most likely gonna be a new one soon. Story number 5. Disney reveals the sailings that go to its new private island. Today's cruise news. Let's get into it. This is your source for cruise news from around the world. My name is Joe. I'll be your host. Here's today's top story. 9 cruise ship passengers that were aboard the Norwegian Dawn were denied re-entry onto the ship after running late on a shore excursion. Jill and Jay Campbell told U.S. media outlets that the Dawn was still docked when they returned back, but the crew refused to let them on board or take their calls. Jay described a frustrating conversation with NCL's customer service, sending them in circles trying to get in touch with anybody that could help. He said they called, they sent emails, they contacted the emergency line, and they were told that the only way they could communicate with the ship was via email, and the ship was not responding to anybody's emails. They were even ferried out to the ship in a speedboat by the Coast Guard, only to be told to turn around and go back. The cruise ship did actually get the passengers their passports off the ship, but would not supply them with their credit cards, medication, or any other personal items that were still on the ship. Finally accepting the fact that they weren't going to be able to get back on the ship that day, the passengers traveled to Gambia, which was the next port of call, only to find out that due to low tides, the ship was actually redirected to Senegal. So now they're on their way to Senegal. Hopefully they're going to get back on that cruise ship. In response, Norwegian did admit the situation was unfortunate, but shifted the responsibility back to the passengers for missing the cutoff time. Guests are responsible for getting back to the ship before the all-aboard time, and this was communicated broadly all over the ship. The cruise line was also coordinating with local authorities, letting them know what the passengers would need to get back on the ship, and they also mentioned that they were in communication with the passengers. That statement is at odds with what the Campbells told media. As of Sunday, they said they hadn't heard back from the cruise line. Well, as much as I sympathize with the folks that got stranded after coming back late from their shore excursion, I have to say on this one, I definitely side with Norwegian. When you look at this from the standpoint of the captain and the crew and all the other thousands of passengers on the ship's safety has to come first. As much as I understand the frustration these people must have felt, it sounds like they got back not that long after the cutoff point. The ship was still there. They're like, why can't I just get back on the ship? It's right there. You've got to look at this from the captain's point of view. He's got a ship full of thousands of people that are his responsibility. He has to get that ship safely out of that port and to the next port on the schedule that's set. He's got, I'm sure, a ton of things to do, protocols he has to follow. The crew all has things they have to do. So once that cutoff time passes, they've got new responsibilities. So when you look at this from the standpoint of the captain, the crew, and the rest of the ship, I definitely think they did the right thing. I understand it's got to hurt standing on the pier looking at the ship, wondering why you can't just get back on. But sometimes in life, you just got to accept you didn't make it, move on to the next option. It sounds like they're having trouble getting back on that ship, but I hope they do and they can enjoy the rest of their cruise. So this is a great opportunity to just mention a couple of ways to avoid a really stressful situation like these people had to go through. You can book your excursion through the cruise line. Every cruise I've been on, they always guarantee that you're going to get back on the ship, even if the excursion runs late. And if you book an excursion through a third-party company, a lot of times they'll have in their contract that if they get you back after all aboard time, they'll pay your way to the next port. So look for that in the contract when you sign up for your shore excursions. It's a good insurance to have. Another great idea is just to bring an ID and a credit card with you every time you get off the ship. That way, if things go south, you're covered. You should always expect the unexpected when you're traveling. That's actually a big part of why I travel. There's excitement in it. Things don't always go right. Things sometimes go wrong, but you know what? You're going to have an adventure. It's going to be fun, but you don't want to be sitting there with no ID and no credit card. That's going to get you nowhere fast. In our next story, cruise lines embrace April Fool's Day on social media. These posts speak for themselves. I can't wait to get aboard Air Force Fun. British Cruise Line ambassador claiming to have spotted purple turtles on the British Isles. The first thing my wife said when she saw this one was, "That is awesome, why don't they really do that?" A social media agency that is responsible for promoting the Irish city of Cobb go in on the fun and claimed that a new cruise ship would be visiting for the first time, from Mick Cruise. Next on Cruise News. Norwegian Cruise Line is forced to cancel several 2025 cruises. The cancellations are due to fleet redeployments, charters, and one dry dock. The affected ships are the Norwegian Epic, the Jade, the Pearl, the Sky, the Spirit, the Star, and the Viva. If you have a cruise booked on any of these ships in the year of 2025, look in the description below. We're going to have all the exact dates for the cancellations listed. Also, you can obviously go onto the Norwegian Cruise Line website and they will be listed there as well. Passengers are being offered different ships with similar itineraries to make up for the canceled cruises. New cruises to replace the canceled cruises will be announced in 2 weeks. In cruise stock news, cruise line stocks are high. Over the past 12 months, Carnival stock has risen 61%, Norwegian has floated up 58%, and Royal Caribbean stock has more than doubled with a 115% rise. The S&P 500 in comparison has risen 30%. This definitely bodes well for the cruise industry. And on the horizon is a new cruise stock. In late February, Viking Holdings announced it had filed a confidential registration statement with the Securities and Exchange Commission related to its proposed initial public offering. The company, known for its upscale river cruises, did not disclose the number of shares or the potential price for the IPO. Once again, folks, I am not an investment expert, but this is something that I would keep an eye on. In our last story, Disney will start sailing to its new private island at Lighthouse Point in the Bahamas, with sailings on the Disney Fantasy from Port Canaveral and sailings on the Disney Magic from Port Everglades. Lighthouse Point is to be the second Disney private island in the Bahamas. The new area is going to include an interactive family water area, slides, water drums, a designated area for toddlers, and there will also be an adult-only beach area. I know Disney fans of all ages are going to be pumped up for this new private island experience. Can't wait to hear about how it is. That's today's top stories from around the cruise industry on today, April 3rd in the year of our Lord 2024. Always remember, no matter what destination you choose, no matter what cruise line you choose for your next cruise, adventure awaits.